This is Conversation. Very few people know what leadership truly means. Leadership is quite a common word. We hear it often in our daily spaces and our daily environments, and in the daily activities that we do. However, not many people can really live up to the concept of leadership. When we return from this break, I will share who my guests are and we'll get to dive straight into our conversation.
Never in the history of the world has there been a stringent demand, call and cry for leaders as there is now. Leaders who understand where they are going. Leaders who have been where we want to be and can handhold us to get to that point. Leaders with a vision who can steer the affairs of our lives. But how do we find such leaders? Who knows where we want to be and can help you get there? Even so, how do I become that great leader? If you have a desire, a mission to be the leader that changes the trajectory of this world, the book for you is Becoming a Great Leader, a compelling read by Moses Bafuewa that takes you on a journey that walks you through how you can effectively lead yourself and those who rely on you for leadership. Now more than ever, the world is crying out for leaders who will be the change makers. Will you be one? Find out how in Becoming a Great Leader. Grab a copy now.
Welcome back to Conversations, the place where we get to bet out today's possibilities through meaningful discussions. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, the notification icon, and hit the like button as well. On Conversations, we get to share ideas, we get to discuss the book, Becoming a Great Leader, written by Mr. Moses Bafo Ewa, a leadership expert, a consultant, and a youth worker. In today's episode of Conversations, my guest and I will be discussing the chapter 2 of the book, Defining Leadership. With me on the show today, we have our very own Mr. Ruben Anani. You are welcome once again to Conversations.
Thank you for having me, brother. I'm grateful to be here.
It's great to have you. On his immediate left, we have a new guest, Miss Makafi Sediafa, who is a youth worker and an entrepreneur. Glad to have you here with us.
I'm glad to be here, Tigoda. Thank you for having me.
Thank you too. And on her immediate left, I have Mr. Theodore Abiru. Thank you for being here once again, Mr. Theodore.
Thank you, Goda. It's always nice to be part of the conversations that shape the minds of young people and shape the possibilities of tomorrow.
Thank you. In today's discussion, my guest and I will be talking about the second chapter of the book, Becoming a Great Leader, Defining Leadership. We will be reviewing our personal thoughts about leadership before we read the book and after we have read the book. Defining leadership. What comes to your mind when you hear the word leadership? Let me start with you, Ms. McAfee.
Thank you, Goda. So for me, leadership is all about influencing people in such a way that on a regular day, what they wouldn't have done, you get them to do it as a leader. And it's all about getting them to do the right thing. There are various forms of leadership, and being a leader, it can be a positive influence or it can either be a negative influence. But for me, my thoughts on leadership is all about positive influence on your followers. Thank you.
Share with me, Mr. Children, what comes to mind when you hear the word leadership?
The word in itself, for me, it feels as if it's an amalgamation of leadership, and that might be because of my poetry background, but I always like to pull words apart and put them back together and see if I can find new meaning. So for me, lead a ship means that I picture a ship in my mind and it's on the sea. And a ship, as she said, can have two moments. Can have tempest or can have calm. When there is calm, you really don't know that there is a captain. You only know there is a captain when there is tempest, when there is turmoil on the sea, when the waves are not friendly to the ship. It's the same as flying an aeroplane. In the aeroplane, when we move and arrive safely, nobody knows that there is a captain in the plane. But when there is an issue mid-air, then you know there is somebody. So for me, leadership is that opportunity to rise to the occasion of leading people out of difficult situations. When the situation is not friendly, when things are hard, when COVID hits, when Russia-Ukraine strike, when the economy is down, that's when you know leaders. When we didn't have independence, and then Nkrumah came, then we knew, okay, we needed a leader, and we had one in him, right? When we had the South Africans had their issue with apartheid, it was in that difficult situation that Mandela rose. Any great leader you can mention had some difficulty to have dealt with. So for me, leadership is that opportunity to rise to the occasion and lead people out of a tempest.
Rising to the occasion.
Rising to the occasion.
And then I think to add to what he had said, sometimes when a leader leaves and another comes, that is when you realize that you've had a leader.
As an editor of the book, prior to reading Becoming a Great Leader, what was your definition of leadership?
I had the definition that everyone had, being in charge of something, being put in charge of something. But then in the process of editing the book, I was unlearning a lot of things.
So they were add-ons.
Yes, a lot of them. And I realized that it takes a whole preparation to become a leader. It takes processes. And the most important one was working on myself. I had to I had to assess myself inwardly and then outwardly. I had to rebuild my own character. So there are things that I didn't know that I had to have in my life. Things I didn't know that I have to take out of my life. And working on the book was working on me as well. So that was what the book did to me. Being a great leader has been a medicine to me as well.
Been a medicine to you.
Yes.
God, I'll share the same thing. You see, this book is not only for those who want to become great leaders. Even if you are a leader now, or you consider yourself one, you need this book. It's like the Bible. It kind of reminds you. It kind of pricks you. So because when you are in leadership for a very extended period, you have the tendency of losing sight of what it truly means to be a leader. And you take that opportunity for granted. When you read this book, it nudges you in the head. Are you sure you are actually applying the principles? And that's the thing for me. I got the manuscript and I read through. Normally, I would read through for the first time to just get a sense of what is the author trying to say before I begin to delve in and edit. And when I read through the first, I realized that I told him, this book doesn't need editing. Because there is so much you get that comes at you that makes you realize that, okay, even though I'm not now a beginner to be taught leadership, I have so much more I have neglected, I have abandoned that I really need to go back for. And so I share similar experience with Ruben on the book working on me when I was the one supposed to be working on the book in editing.
Yeah. And also I keep saying that this book is the best tool. Like, this is the How to Be Great starter kit for young people. You know, it's not to say that older people don't need this. Everyone needs to have this book. But for young people, it is a special tool. It is a special tool you need in your arsenal. Why? We have to be very, very much clear on this. The family system is breaking down. Education has lost its value. Our leaders today are 20 years ago would have been examples of what not to be. Are you understanding me? And if you do not take charge of your life, you are going to lose yourself. This book has set ground rules. It puts you down. As you look at it, the book looks at you. And then you begin to check yourself. If you don't do that, you are going to wreck yourself. I don't want to share this experience. It's so personal.
There's this sense of checklisting.
Yes.
That comes with it.
Yeah. Right. So at a point, I felt like maybe I'm too close to the author. That is the reason I'm feeling this way. So I gave the book to a sister of mine to read, and then she came up with a whole review. I didn't ask her to review the book. She loves reading, and she doesn't read on leadership. She read on romance and then on marketing, because she does like online sales and then customer service and all that. She's an expert in that. But when she read the book, she gave me a whole note.
Wow.
And then she made her own review. And from time to she calls me to ask me, Ruben, the book said something, and then we refer to it, and I realized that the book was working on this lady. Yeah. So
I actually love the back and forth. There's a lot to pick up from it. But then from what I picked up from both of them, this book is not just teaching you how to lead people. If you're already in a leadership position, it's not teaching you how to lead people. It's teaching you how to lead yourself. It teaches you self-leadership because you must know how to lead yourself first. You must know your right from your left before you can help someone with something else. So
the book starts with you first.
Correct.
Not to leave this conversation, but you see, the author said that leadership is quite a common word. He said it in the book. Leadership is quite a common word that almost everyone has read about or heard about. But the common word has generated so much heat and debate in these times. Why do you think that?
It's not even in these times. Leadership has always, as a word, as a concept, as a practice, as a profession, has always been under contestation, either in academia or in profession. In fact, even during the Greek days, Herodotus and his colleagues would argue about, is the emperor a leader? Yes. Is the head of the army, the commander? All of those things. Because first of all, it's about how do you get to a position where you are seen and considered as a leader. It's a lot of fight to get there. Then it's about what do you do in there when you finally occupy that spot or considered as a leader. What do you do in there, and then how you live. I think that these three stages in the life of a leader kind of make it very debatable. Because if I took a gun today and I went to the Flagstaff House and I booted everybody out and I said, I'm the president, am I really the president? Would you call me your leader? Right?
Yeah.
If I was born to the president of the country and he handed over the country to me, am I really your leader? So you realize that though you may be in a certain position that you might be considered in a leadership position, you are not actually a leader. You are only a leader if the people that you lead consider you to be in the lead. You get it?
Yeah.
Until you are there, you're not a leader. So even if you are occupying a certain position, and we who you are commanding, we are following you because we are afraid of death, we are following you because we are afraid of we will not get our daily meal, you are not a leader. But then you would call yourself a leader. So you will find that there's a lot of contestation as to people are born leaders, people are created leaders, people are made to become leaders. There are all those issues. And I'm sure in the show we'll deal with all of those assertions. But I believe it's always about the struggle to getting somewhere that you are considered a leader, what you do in that opportunity or that position, and how the position is when you leave. Put these three things together, you will understand why there is so much debate about the concept of leadership.
This view of yours brings me to a time when I was growing up. Majority of the time, all about leadership to me had to do with I need to be seen. We are a group of people, and they say, who is a leader? I just want to be seen. So I'm going for I want to be the leader. But then coming to the book and reading so much about leadership, defining leadership, it makes me understand that leadership is a whole different perspective. It's a whole new thing. Leadership is influence. Leadership is getting people to do what they don't want to do.
Not only what they don't want to do, but sometimes what they didn't think they needed to do. You are a leader if you can get people to do what they didn't think they needed to do. You talk about influence, she talks about influence. That's so profound what you say, that though the other side is true, for you stay with the positive side, and that's good. There's a gentleman that I went to school with, a very good friend of mine. His name, as everybody would know, is Invisible. This gentleman was, for my 7 years stay in GIJ, the most influential political leader in GIJ. He never occupied a spot on campus. Not one, not even Cosgrave. Never. But nothing goes on politically on campus if he doesn't bless it, right? I went to GIJ for 7 years. I never occupied a Cosgrave position. But those that know me in GIJ will know that if we are counting influential year groups, I would be one of them. And there are many people like that. And there are those who also occupy positions and they did well. There are those who occupy positions and didn't do anything. So leadership actually goes beyond we can see you. It's actually we can feel your power and your influence on us.
It's like saying leadership and management are two different things.
They
Because
are.
it means that majority of the time from my childhood when I was growing up, I was rather managing. I'm not leading.
I not. I don't want to feel like I'm taking a lot of the time, but if you guys will permit me, management and leadership are two different things. Truth is this: I personally, I don't believe you can go to school to learn leadership. You can go and learn management, directing, right? But you cannot learn leadership because it's not like a profession with set rules. And that's why this book is profound, because this book codifies for you how to be a leader, which is not something you can find in any book. Not the wisest philosophers wrote about how to be a leader. They always told you, how do you manage people? How do you manage resources? How do you ensure that you economize? So most of the people become presidents or ministers or MPs. They know how to maybe manage the legal affairs of the country. So they enter into attorney general. Somebody knows how to organize the economy. So the person becomes vice president or president. But really, to lead people means that when you talk, take this for example, Adolf Hitler, was he ever a leader? That guy stood on the stage and said the whole world should go to war. And people were willing to pick up guns and ammunition and go to war. They knew they were going to die. But they went because somebody said it. Or Osama bin Laden. Somebody said it. Today, Russia, Ukraine is at war. You know why? One man got up, picked a camera, and broadcast to soldiers that today I want you to invade this country. And there are soldiers fighting. That's leadership. Influence. And it's more than management. You can be a great manager, but when there's crisis in the company, you will sack as a leader.
This is back to the previous episodes where we said that leadership is an art and therefore can be learned. And Mr. Chudo mentions that you do not have to go to school basically to go and learn leadership. You don't have to go through a whole curriculum of learning what leadership is all about. These are very profound statements. It makes me understand the processes involved in chapter defining leadership. When we return from this break, we'll get to delve more into the book. We're going to discuss the basic conceptions about leadership.
What is leadership? You should tell you that you must decide to learn how to lead. You must go on a journey to learn how to lead. What is leadership? According to Dr. Maxwell, leadership is saying, leadership is what? Influence. Leadership is influence. Leadership is not position. To me, is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. The sign that you want to become a great leader is that you are prepared to die yourself. What are you prepared to die?
We are welcome back from that break. This is Conversations, where we bet out today's possibilities through meaningful discussion. Don't forget to share your comments with us. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like. Moving on, the author mentioned some misconceptions and myths we hear about leadership in the book. Let me start with you, Mr. Chudo. What's some of the misconceptions or myths as addressed by the author in the book, and what do you think about this?
Well, the one that stood up to me was the leaders are not born. That the myth is that leadership is born with you and it's not learned. So some people are meant to be leaders, and some people are just meant to be followers. And that myth is nicely broken down in the book by the author. I think that I agree with the author. Leaders are not necessarily born. You can be born into a dynasty. Doesn't make you a leader. You still have to learn how to manage, how to direct, and how to lead the people within the dynasty. You can be born into a rich family. Doesn't make you a rich man. You have to learn how to manage the money, use the money to make more money. So I actually agree on the assertion that leadership is a skill, is an art, an attitude that can be learned. And so anybody who wants to become a leader can learn. And for me, it's also about opportunity to actually lead people to their desired destinations.
The author sums that up in the chapter 2 on page 70 when he says that great leaders are great learners.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to learn about yourself, learn about the people, learn about the environment, learn about the external factors that influence your leadership opportunity, learn all of that.
Moving on, Miss McCaffrey, share with me any of the misconceptions or myths that stood out for you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Golda. For me, the myth that stood out for me in this book, or that I want to throw more light on, the author made mention of people believe that leadership is by divine providence. Okay, this is where people believe that leadership is for certain group of people, the elite. Okay, so or people that are born into the royal family. And then the author, Chief Moses Bafwewa, made mention of what if no one is born into such lineage? Are you telling me they wouldn't become leaders? But then the answer is no. The fact that I'm not born into a royal family doesn't mean I cannot become a leader. As my colleague said, Mr. Theodore, leadership is learned. And you have to learn the act of leading people. And even those that are born into the monarchical family sometimes mess up when they rise up to become leaders. Even they are taught, they are prepared to take over, to succeed the one who is already leaded. So it's a great myth that this book has really opened our minds, our eyes, and I believe that anyone who takes this book will get that thought out of his or her head. So that's the book.
Even in a monastery, they learn leadership. How
Yes.
much more we? Okay, moving on, Mr. Ruben, share with me one of the misconceptions.
I think I'll go with them, and then the one that denotes that you must be born into a family of royalty or certain prestige to become a leader. Now, this may be true in some sense, but then even through it all, even if you're born into a certain family and you want to make an influence as a leader, you'd have to learn like everybody else. So my favorite paragraph in this chapter is great leaders are great learners. If you do not learn, except you just want to be a certain type of leader, but if you want to be a leader that makes influence, like the book talked about in so many instances, you would have to take learning very, very serious. Let me quickly go over the story of Alexander the Great. You know, Alexander the Great was born into a family of Macedonian royalty. And his right to the throne after his dad passes on was uncontested. But then his father realized that times were changing, and in the future, Greece was going to need a certain form of leadership. Because even in the time, Macedonia was cut off from all the kingdoms in Greece. Athens was there, Sparta, those were regarded as big state, but then Macedonia was insulted for siding with the Persians in the past. So his father knew that in the future, that country was going to be needing a new form of leadership. So he took Alexander from the military academy at age 13 and sent him to Aristotle. And over there, he learned philosophy, he learned the sciences, he learned drama, he learned literature, he learned medicine. Now, at the age of 16, his father had a problem with the Athenians. A grain of sheep was passing over the Dardanelles to Athens, and then he seized the sheep, and that caused a war. At age 6, his father made him a co-regent.
I mean, at age 16.
Yes, age 16, he became a co-regent, and then he fought in the Battle of Charoneia, and he won. His father didn't hold his hands to win. It was the learning processes that made Alexander win the battle. Now, after his dad passed on, Alexander became the ruler of Macedonia. And then another war, he was able to beat the Thebans. And that way, he called the entire Greek country to bow to him. He united them against the Persians. He beat them and went ahead to conquer the entire world, named 10 cities after his name.
Yeah.
You know, that is the power of learning. His father had all the privileges to just let him come in. But no, and Alexander was patient. So his greatness was not because he came from a certain family, but his submissiveness, his commitment, his ability to learn. So after he became great, his favorite quote was that, Philip gave me my life, but Aristotle gave me the good life.
One of the things about leadership is that people must be willing to learn
Yes.
and willing to submit themselves.
Yes. Yes. Learning is very important.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot learn if you are not humble to learn. And so the greatest of leaders are the most humble of people. You hear Jesus in the Bible tell us, if you want to be great, be as these children. It's by bowing to yourself, to pleasures of the world, that you are able to rise to the pinnacle of society.
Yeah.
Still on you, Mr. Chudo. What are some of the definitions of leadership that stood out for you when you were reading the chapter?
I've always marked mine. It's a quote from, I think this is the author's favorite person of all time, I think, because in multiple books he keeps talking about Winston Churchill. But we all love Winston Churchill. Anybody who is an appreciator of classical history, of politics, of oratory, would love to follow Winston. And it was Winston who said the capacity and will to rally men and women to a common purpose and the character which inspires confidence. So the capacity and will, that's on page 21. The capacity and will. So you need capacity, that is the learning. And then you need the will, that is the attitude, right? To rally men and women. You cannot be a leader if you don't have followers. You don't have people who are willing to go with you. When you say chobo and nobody says, hey, you are not a leader. You get?
Yes.
But the interesting thing here is that it's to rally men and women. And as a gender advocate, as an empowerment person, when I see such a definition from such an old historical figure, I'm happy, because we recognize that leadership is not only for men. Like some, how do you call it, myths would put out that only men can be leaders. We used to do this in our classrooms, right? Basic school. The boys carry the desks, the girls to the floor. I used to be one of the guys who would be against this, and the teachers would not understand. I'm like, I can sweep, and the girls can carry the desk, right? But you are a boy. It's your job to carry desk. You are the one to go to the heavy task. So in schools, we always say school prefers as a boy and girls prefers as the girl. And I used to hate that. So to see this definition talk about women and men, it comes up to me. And then it says to a common purpose. I mean, Jesus said, two cannot move unless they agree. So if leadership will be impactful, the people must agree on the purpose or where they are going. And then it talks about, further to that, the character which inspires confidence. And this character inspires confidence in the leader and in the led. Then that's what she said, that when you are able to make people do things that regularly they would not have done, right? When you have somebody among you who, when everybody is down, yes, you are down because you don't have money, but he can excite all of you. He can get all of you to get the job done. That is a leader. And so that character in you, right, that will allow you to inspire confidence in you yourself and then in other people. So for me, this is my favorite definition from the book.
That's interesting. Share with me, Makafi. Which of the definitions stood out for you?
Okay, to me, the definition of leadership that stood out to me, that will be on page 26 of chapter 2. Yeah. The definition by John Quentin Adams. He defined leadership as one whose actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more. For me, this stood out for me. Why do I say I like this definition? Can I share a personal story?
Yes, please do.
Okay. The reason why I say this definition stood out for me was this comes to me when I attended the flagship program of the Youth Arise organization back in 2018. That's the Leadership Diary Training Program. Okay. Where a speaker talked about being motivated. In fact, the whole program motivates you. Once you're a participant, one thing that you get from it is great motivation. And we're talking about entrepreneurship. And one of the core values of Youth Arise is the spirit of entrepreneurship, which I've really come to adopt as my personal value. Okay. So this taught me to go into my entrepreneurship, as you all know, Yogi Fresh. Yes. So it really taught me how to go in for what I wanted. It taught me how to press on, no matter how hard you think, no matter the. Sometimes you think about it and you think it comes with a whole lot of challenges, but that motivation alone, it encouraged me. It made me move on. So that's what I would say is leadership. So it inspired me. That action alone inspired me to dream more. It made me learn the act of marketing and a whole lot of things. It made me want to know more. And then it made me do more. And right now, I'm sure that I'll become more, definitely, just by this. So that's my story.
That's a very interesting personal experience that you shared, Ms. McAfee. For me, one of the things that stood out for me in the book was on page 26 when he says that when Warren Bennett's definition of leadership states that the capacity to translate vision into reality. And for me, some of the questions that were running through my mind at that point in time was, how am I creating environments for people to realize their visions? What kind of vision am I giving people in the space of leadership? And so for me, this is one of the leadership definitions that stands out for me because it creates questions in my mind. It helps me to reflect on my leadership journey. Moving forward, I want us to read page 29, the last paragraph. It says that if people are hungry and they meet a great leader, they must begin to experience abundance in their lives. If people are confused and they meet a great leader, they must experience clarity in their lives. If people are frustrated with life and they meet a great leader, they must experience motivation and reason to continue living. What do you make out of this paragraph?
Well,
Yes.
See, the beauty of this last paragraph is that it is the ending to the chapter. And as an end to a chapter, you want to summarize from good writing ethics perspective. You want to try and summarize but not repeat what you said in the chapter. So we would always ask, this plenty talk, and so what? And so, what is definition? What is leadership according to the author? The author's perception or definition of leadership is that it must cause change. It must move people from one position to another. It must bring them clarity if they are confused. It must put food on their table if they are hungry. It must put money in their pocket if it's poverty they are experiencing. It must make their life better than it was before the person considered as a leader came into the conversation. So for me, this paragraph is sort of the author's own way of defining what leadership is and summarizing all together what we've discussed in the whole chapter, simply put into these, I think 4 sentences or 3 sentences, giving you clarity on 1, if people are experiencing poverty and they meet a leader, something must change. There must be a positive change, right?
Yes.
If people are confused and they meet a lecturer in the classroom and that lecturer is a good leader, that lecturer must bring clarity. You get? If people they don't know what to do with their lives at a conference like she attended and they are just living because the wind is blowing, they meet a leader, there must be some focus. And that's the power of this book. That's the power of the words of the author. And I believe these, for me, are even the words that everybody... Maybe I should print these words and frame it in my room.
Of course.
This is powerful.
I think I'm agreeing with you on that, so I'll be doing that too. Shall we be Ms. McAfee? What do you make out of the statements?
Thank you very much, Ms. Goda. For me, this paragraph says it all. I feel it defines itself. There's no need to say anything more. But then, if people are hungry and they meet a great leader, they must begin to experience abundance in their lives. I can't be a follower. I meet a great leader and I'm hungry and he can't provide for me. Or let's take it the other way. I'm okay, I'm good. I look good. People give me good compliments. Then I stumble upon you, okay, and my life turns upside down. I wouldn't call that great leadership. So this paragraph says it all. Everything must change for the good for the follower. So that's what I'll see.
And you see, finally, this paragraph, as I said in the previous episode, this paragraph confirms what I said, that the book defines leadership as in the hands of the follower. It doesn't put leadership in the hands of the leader. So it puts the responsibility and the benefit of leadership is in the follower. Something must change in the follower. The testament to great leadership is positive change in the follower. So it is not self-aggrandizement. It is not buying all the big cars. It is actually making the life of the person who is considered a follower better than you came to meet. So followers must be responsible in demanding from their leaders what the leader should do. It means that followers are part of the story of a great leader. If somebody will be a great leader, it takes responsible followers who demand accountability from the follower, who ensure that they don't follow the leader blindly. They don't become bootlickers, accepting everything the leader says. If you have followers who are able to demand the right things from their leader, the leader becomes a great leader.
Accountability.
Hmm?
A leader cannot stop along the way. For me, one of the key things of this statement is that it makes me understand that at every point in our lives, for every leader that we are seeking for, it takes me back to my intro when I say that people are looking for someone who can navigate their path for them, someone who has been where they want to go to and can help them get to that place. And so this statement makes me understand that I must experience some sort of clarity in my life. At any point in time I meet a leader, that's my accountability from the leader. And just to share a personal story, I think that one of in time where I found purpose, where I found direction, where I found a new face to a lot of things in my life, is coming in contact with a mentor and coming in contact with a leader. And he is Mr. Moses Bafoiwa.
It's telling. It's very clear in your presentations and the way you manage this conversation.
I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you very much, Mr. Tudo. And that brings me to the end of the discussion on chapter 2. It's been another exciting episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next episodes. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to share your comments. And you can contact the numbers displayed on the screen below for more details about the book or to answer more questions that you have. See you next week.
He quoted something here. He said, "People did not see that I deserved any such thing as a leadership portfolio. They wondered why a position should be given to me." So, growing up, people didn't believe in him. They wondered why should we give you a position? You don't deserve it and all. But then looking at him now, and for him to lead Youth Arise organization, which I'm a beneficiary of its flagship program, Leadership Direct Training Program. I mean, had he not started it, I wouldn't know what I'll be doing with my life now. And then look at Barack Obama, a Kenyan person rising to become the 44th president of America.